What's up, everybody? Nate and Aiden here for not a podcast, not something that's pretty typical of us, but we have pretty big just news overall, with one of the most interesting and talked about coaching vacancies, I guess, really in the sport in the past like couple years. I mean,
Yeah.
not as much talk and smoke, both real and fake, has been thrown out about um a vacancy, especially one that's been available for a couple months now during a season. So it's been pretty interesting. Um, and we're kind of here to break a little bit of what we know down and just especially after yesterday. And so we're filming this on Monday, May 18th. And yesterday morning, we posted a tweet saying, while many people might not be surprised, uh, Kevin Schnall is the front runner, and it is not, I wouldn't say all but done, but it is extremely likely that following the conclusion of Coastal Carolina's season this year, that in the coming days after that, he will be announced as the 32nd head coach in South Carolina baseball.
hmm
Um, now, I mean, look, the timing of it is,
It's not good. I
yeah.
think that's what's why some people don't believe it because of the timing of it. And people want him to finish out his season, but it's just the reality of it. I mean, we saw what Lane Kiffin did to LSU in football.
No, no, no. That's not going to happen. I don't
I don't
now.
think that's gonna happen, but I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, it's someone's job switch all the time, and it's just you really can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, especially now with the way that things work with NIL and operating, it's a business. And I mean, we'll get into why he might want this job over at Coastal. But like I said, it's a business and we'll come back to that. Um, but that being said, Coastal is heading to the Sun Belt tournament as the two seed. They will lock up a spot in a regional as a two seed. They were slated to host. And then the last 2 weeks of the season, they lost series to Old Dominion and to Louisiana. And it was pretty interesting just watching them the last couple weeks. Something was off about this team. And I hate to say that, it kind of makes sense hearing some of this news and some of the stuff that's come out, but it really kind of does. And so, I mean, that's basically the overview of the situation. There really isn't that much, but I mean, a 150 word tweet caught a lot of smoke yesterday and got a lot of people up in arms. And so, yeah, I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the first question I feel like, and the question that we've been asked the most, first of all, is why would he leave a place that in his first year there, he took them to a national championship appearance? And while that's a very valid point, Coastal has experienced a lot of success both under him and under Gary Gilmore before him while he was an assistant there. There's quite a bit of, I guess I would say, reasons or potential reasons as to why he would want this job. And we'll kind of get into that. Nate, go ahead. You could go ahead and take some of this
I feel
off.
like the biggest thing is when you see a coach leave a job like this, it creates more opportunities and it attracts more people to South Carolina. As you see, Coastal Carolina, they're good, but they're good at what they do, and they're good for a mid-major. And but that's just saying they could be good against all these other teams, but South Carolina, their expectation every year is to get to Omaha, and that's I think where he wants to be at. And I think back to what I said about the recruits, they would attract recruits to South Carolina, it's SEC. They're gonna bring in a top 10 recruiting class every year with him. In my opinion, they're gonna bring in portal guys that want to play in the SEC, that want to make it to the MLB, and that's what South Carolina does for recruits like that. And I think that's the biggest reason, in my opinion. And you might have a bigger one.
I mean, yeah, and I'll add to that. Like you said, the appeal. Obviously, it's just the prestige of a program that won back-to-back national titles just about 15 years ago. I mean, and while since then things haven't been incredible for the program as a whole. They've still made it to quite a few super regionals. They've had very successful seasons. I mean, even just recently, before Paul Maneri was there, they had a lot of talent come through that program, whether they stayed there or transferred out, and they still do have quite a bit of talent there. Um, they're just lost, and you've seen that in the last couple of years. And so, first of all, for Kevin Schnall, who's done incredible things with Coastal, moving to a school with the pedigree, the value, I guess the tradition, and just like just the name, the brand of South Carolina. Does a lot for him. But on top of that, it's the resources that this school has. While Coastal, yes, they're a mid-major and in one of the more premier mid-major conferences, which the Sun Belt is a great baseball conference and competes with the best teams in the country every year. The resources in NIL funding, in coaches' salary, in recruiting and guys that you could send out to scout and recruit players. Um, while that's great at Coastal, you are going to at least triple your NIL budget at South Carolina. You're going to get more help in terms of a stronger alumni base and connections to talk it up and to get guys that want to come there. And I mean, this is just the beginning of it, but there's a lot more in terms of, yeah, the NIL funding is going to be a lot larger at South Carolina. You're going to have a budget to bring in any guy you want, which where at Coastal you really don't have that luxury. And in the SEC, any guy that you want to bring will want to play at a program like South Carolina. Now, in addition to that, I don't want to say that the money matters, but definitely talks when South Carolina can bring you a checkbook that is 5 times your yearly salary than what it is at Coastal. And for a guy that grew up, has been around Coastal for a long time, South Carolina is not too far away.
That's
And
another reason, yeah, in
And the
my opinion.
challenge of winning and turning around a program that's been to the top before and done all these things and now has this negative connotation around him, something that I think would change the narrative around Kevin Schnall as a coach. I mean, if he goes to South Carolina and does what he did at Coastal, which I'll give him so much credit, this Coastal Carolina team, especially missing Cam Flukie for 2 months, should not be or should not have been in the position to host and potentially be a top 8 seed just 3 weeks ago. And
Hmm.
so while you never know what's going on, and maybe his mind's halfway out the door right now, and maybe that's why this team has slipped the past 2 weekends. Kevin Schnall is an amazing coach, and if he goes and has the resources that South Carolina has compared to what Coastal Carolina has, holy shit, if I'm the rest of the country, I am terrified. I'll just
Hmm.
put it that way.
I would be too, and especially in the SEC. Yeah, I mean, South Carolina, when they're at their best, they are a top three team in the SEC year in and year out. So I think getting Snall there, that would be really terrifying. And I would love to see what he does there. And I think it would be an amazing fit, not too far from Coastal Carolina. So he's not really going anywhere, to be honest. And I think that's another reason that's this is playing. And it's going to be like you might see him there sooner than later because he's not going far. This isn't like hey, I want you to move to Knoxville, Tennessee. It's not that. And I think we will talk about that later because we had a question about that. But I think that's another reason why you might see this happen instead of like a Tennessee or somewhere else.
Yeah, and I mean that brings us right into it. And before, I mean, I guess we'll do this before we take a break. But the question that we got that caught my eye was if Tennessee offered him a bag last year with their program in good shape, he didn't take it. Why would he leave for South Carolina when their program's in shambles? And while I mean, look, I don't want to say a program is in shambles because of 2 subpar years. And while yes, by their standards, it's very
Yeah,
it's
by their standards, they're in shambles, but I don't think it's anything to be worried about, to be honest.
Yeah, it's nothing that they can't rebuild from. They have talent. A lot of guys still want to go there. The firing of Palmineri, yes, a lot of guys decommitted, but you'll see Kevin Schnall get hired, and instantly you'll see guys that rethink things and want to go to South Carolina and want to learn under him. He has an incredible director of analytics and staff that, if he brings with him, is going to attract a lot of guys. And so, just those specific options, as well as the fact that when you're calling a coach in October, when they're mid fall ball, and you have a roster that is slated to compete this season, and you shake up more than just leaving to go to Tennessee, which is, yes, it was a great opportunity, but you have to look at all the circumstances that come around it when that job was vacant, how that job was approached and offered to him. And while everyone thought that, yeah, Chanel was going to take it, no, the circumstances weren't right. And that's kind of what he detailed in the fact that he wasn't going to leave his team in October when he's built this roster and curated a roster for this 2026 season following a championship run.
Mhm.
And so now, when the season's over and you have a team that is 40 minutes away from where you are right now, a home state team with a chance to build a I guess legacy is the word because if Kevin Schnall turns that program around and next year South Carolina is even in a super regional, you're talking about them as a perennial contender for the next 5 years to come after that. And if he
Hmm.
wins a national championship there within 3 years, Kevin Schnall is one of the top two coaches in college baseball.
Hmm. That's not crazy to say. I mean, he was
So,
arguably last year one of the top two coaches of baseball.
and I
So,
agree with that. And so now you want to give him the resources and everything in South Carolina, build more press around him, put more spotlight on him. I think this only helps his narrative. It only fuels him. It only gives him more of a reason to want to go there. And so it really does make a lot of sense to me in terms of it's a move that, while, yeah, it sucks for Coastal fans, I understand it's hard to see him leaving after just his second year there where he's had a lot of success. This is a huge step up.
yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what he does with recruiting because he's already in South Carolina and now he's just at a bigger school. The high school coaches around South Carolina know who he is. So I'm just excited to see what kind of recruiting class he does and is he able to lock up those top recruits? Because as you know, these last couple of years, the top recruits are leaving South Carolina. But when I think he gets to South Carolina, I don't think that's going to be the case much longer. And I'm excited to see how that plays out.
And so we're back. And next question that we got asked and want to touch on is just what is the contract potentially going to look like? And can Coastal even like come near matching that? Is there a way that they just throw everything at him and keep him?
Uh, as they threw everything at him, they could keep him. Yeah, I think they could do that, but I don't think they wouldn't do that. And plus, they're getting a new AD soon. I'm assuming because didn't their AD leave? So
Yeah. So their AD is,
their AD's
I think
gone, and
that's the announcement that's apparently happening today. And so here's also why a lot of smoke came out. Um, Later on yesterday, a Coastal or a Carolina sports account. It wasn't, I don't think it was a strict Coastal affiliate, but a Carolina sports account tweeted an important announcement is coming about a Coastal Carolina figure in athletics. And instantly, people linked our tweet to that tweet and said, wow, Stahl leaving tomorrow, which, first of all, South Carolina is still technically playing.
they're both still playing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Coastal's playing meaningful games in the postseason. Now, I don't want to say the games that South Carolina's playing are not meaningful, but in all reality, they're not making a. I mean, if they make a run in Hoover, then sure, they're playing meaningful games. But South Carolina has a 0.000000001 chance to run the table at Hoover. I mean, it's never impossible, but the likelihood of that is as low as it's ever been. And so you look at it and say, while South Carolina wants to jump the gun and maybe something happens sooner rather than later in terms of, hey, a move is getting announced or some moves start to get announced, some assistants start to get hired. Um, I don't think you see anything until after Coastal comes, after Coastal loses. And I think that today's announcement is going to be centered around the AD. And I think that's also further going to fuel the narrative that Schnall is gone, while an AD would definitely love to keep him there. It's going to be hard for him to just come to terms with one, passing up on that offer that South Carolina is going to have sitting at his front door when the season ends, as
Hmm.
well as knowing that now you have to build this new rapport and, convince this AD to go and put resources into your program. And South Carolina, you really don't have to go and convince that because baseball is the premier sport of the school. The AD knows that, and the AD is going to want to figure this shit out and fix the sinking shit.
Hmm.
So,
But
in my opinion,
in terms of a contract, if you want to talk about
I don't
that
want
would
to
be
even talk about that because
that
I
would
don't
be
know what
really
it's going to look
hard.
like.
I mean,
It would probably be something like
I
five
don't think
years.
I don't think it would be under 2 million a year.
I was
I
going to
don't.
say I think it's probably 5 years, 2.5 million a year, or something like
Yeah.
that.
So
Like he's going to get.
it's kind of hard to eyeball that. I mean, that's just
I don't know. I mean, you got to think about it. He's probably going to get 4 to 5 times what he's making at Coastal right now for 4 to 5 years
yeah.
to start.
Hmm.
To start. And show success in 2 years, you're going to get another extension. You're going to get a pay raise. And so while Coastal definitely can not maybe not even match that. I mean, I don't know if Coastal can match that to a coach. While they definitely, obviously, every school kind of has the funds. I don't know how much resources they want to put into a baseball coach. Maybe their offer gets up to 1 million, 1.5 million. But I mean, look, it's not all about money. I don't want to keep talking about a contract and what that's going to look like because the money, and when we say the money matters, it's not the money that Kevin Schnall is really getting. It's the money that the baseball program is going to be getting. And regardless of the situation, South Carolina as an SEC program is always going to be able to get more funding than Coastal. And I think that's where things really get lost in translation. Whereas people say no matter how much Schnall loves Coastal, he's never going to leave. It's a business at the end of the day, and to build that best team, you need a lot more funding.
Yep, I agree.
I think that's where
So,
I sit with that. But now, if this doesn't happen, there really only is one name for South Carolina at the moment as a fallback.
yep.
And now more could come out in the near future, and there's definitely a chance that, especially with the season that this guy's having, that he gets an extension and stays where he is for right now. But you could talk about it. I mean, you could touch on it a little bit because you know a little bit more than I do.
Yeah, the name we've been hearing is Dan Fitzgerald. That's the name, right? I don't know
Yes,
his
Dan
last name.
Fitzgerald out of
I'm not
Kansas.
familiar with his last name. Yeah, I don't know why I'm not. That's my fault, my bad. But Dan Fitzgerald from Kansas. And we look at and what he did with Kansas, he completely flipped it around. Before he got there, it was the bottom barrel of the Big 12 for baseball. It was always like Kansas basketball, and now what he's done is a Kansas baseball. And you're looking at a team that's on the fringe of hosting. I don't know where did we have him in our.
We have a 17 right now. I mean, if they win 2 games, 3 games, potentially run the table, Big 12 tournament, they lock in as a host. I don't know how high their RPI can get up to, but I mean, look, there's some good teams in that Big 12 tournament. And if they somehow face an Oklahoma State, face an Arizona State, and a Cincinnati on the way to the championship, or West Virginia, Cincinnati, and Kansas State, or some teams like that, where there's some pretty solid teams in there. And if they
Mhm.
win all of them and run the table in the Big 12 tournament, they could boost their RBI pretty
Yeah,
close to be a top 8 national seed.
and
And
I see some. Oh, you can finish. You can finish.
I was just going to say, if Kansas plays at home throughout the postseason or has the opportunity to play at home throughout the postseason, they're a dangerous team to watch.
I
And
have them in Omaha 8 as we speak.
so, I mean, yeah, and that's a testament to what Dan Fitzgerald's been able to do, both on the pitching side and the hitting side, losing your best arm to LSU in the offseason and still being able to go out there and put up a great rotation, put up a lineup with Tyson LeBlanc, Brady Bollinger, more guys that are just hitting the crap out of the ball. Tyson LeBlanc finished the season with 19 home runs, if I'm not mistaken, hitting 330. I mean, came out of nowhere. And so just what the development has been for Kansas, both on the field as players and the culture, the tradition, the fan buy-in to this program, it makes things very interesting in terms of yeah, Dan Fitzgerald is a very sought out coach. A lot of people thought last year that he would be a name to come up for some jobs that were vacant and potentially even the Missouri job if that was to come vacant. And so there's a lot, I guess, there's a lot more smoke in terms of his name that's been thrown around the past couple of years. Definitely a lot more as everyone kind of has known what Kevin Schnall is doing at Coastal, and they knew that for the time being he wasn't going to take a position after year one. Um, and so I think it's interesting to see his name get thrown around there a little bit now, but like I said, the first option is and the front runner for this is still Kevin Schnall. I don't want to say it's the worst kept secret in baseball, but I mean, it's it's pretty known that he is their top guy, and it's pretty known that he has some interest coming back at it. So that's according to our sources. We're not just spewing things. Everyone on Twitter, I understand you guys see an account with very low follower count, and want to say that it's all fake, but go to Instagram, corroborate your sources. I got nothing else to really talk about on that front. I don't want to be, standoffish and be rude to people and respond to people. I feel like that's just the best way to put it. That's the best way to say it because I've seen a lot of it. Um, Look, we're not going to just post something with no sources, no good word. Uh, but yeah, so we decided to a little bit elaborate on it.
Yeah. And I see some people on Twitter saying that the fall off from Snall to get Dan would be really bad. But then I'm thinking of it as if Dan can rebuild Kansas like he did, I wouldn't even know what he would do to South Carolina because South Carolina is way more prestigious than Kansas in terms of baseball. And so Dan going to South Carolina, that would also really scare for the SEC. And honestly, from a rebuilding perspective, Dan has showed a lot more than Schnall because Schnall went to Coastal Carolina, who was good. So I think it's a win-win. I don't think you take a loss with either or.
Either one, yeah, I agree. I think you look at it in terms of look, it's a 1A and 1B type of situation. Schnall has been the guy because of the connection to in-state. It would bring a lot of recruits there in terms of guys that see what he's doing at Coastal and buy into what he can do at South Carolina. But I think Dan Fitzgerald would just make things interesting. He would be a scrappy coach and a scrappy team in the SEC, and I think it would be a great adjustment for him. He's definitely due for an upgrade. But Kansas is also making noise in the baseball world, and so it's really interesting. But I think that's all I got. I wanted to just touch on this. We wanted to elaborate on the situation. To sum it up, Kevin Schnall, still a front runner, definitely will still be the front runner until something really, something happens, until there's a confirmation that he's not taking the job or that he's been hired. And so, I mean, I think you'll hear about things as soon as June 5th, 2 weeks maybe, right after
Yep.
regionals are done. I think that's the earliest you'll hear something. But this could also be a drawn out long coaching search into the time of the super regionals. It also does hurt South Carolina in terms of the transfer portal, building a roster for next year, and getting a jump start on that rebuild. So I'm sure we'll be back. I'm sure there'll be another update video in a couple weeks, but that is the first update of this coaching saga, the South Carolina vacancy, Kevin Schnall rumors, and everything in between. I'm Aiden. That's Nate. Around the horn season. We appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully, this gives up a little more information, clears things up because I know a lot of people weren't really happy to see um, what was posted yesterday. And look, the timing of it is pretty unfortunate. I understand it. We're just doing our job.